Hey everybody, welcome to the No Pants Required podcast. I'm your host, Jen Mann, and today I am wearing, I don't want to say no pants, that's not really exactly it, but I mean like a bathrobe. Does a bathrobe count as pants? I have like this Snuggie thing that I like to wear. It got a little chilly this week, and so the Snuggie came out of storage. So I'm in the Snuggie today. And today I am interviewing my good friend, Denise Grover Swank. Denise Grover Swank is a New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and USA Today bestselling author. She was born in Kansas City, Missouri, and lived in the area until she was 19. Then she became nomadic, living in 5 cities, 4 states, and 10 houses over the course of 10 years before she moved back to her roots. She speaks English and a smattering of Spanish and Chinese, which she learned through an intensive Nick Jr. immersion period. Her hobbies include witty Facebook comments and dancing in the kitchen with her children. Hidden talents include the gift of justification and the ability to drink massive amounts of caffeine and still fall asleep within 2 minutes. Her lack of the sense of smell allows her to perform many unspeakable tasks. She has 6 children and hasn't lost her sanity. Or so she leads you to believe. So today I have Denise Grover Swank with me. And you guys, if you are listening to this podcast and you know who I am, then you know who Denise Grover Swank is. Because Denise and I used to have a podcast together too called Two Midlife Mamas that you should also listen to. It's just on hiatus right now. We just can't figure out when we're going to do it again because Denise is way too busy. But we used to do a podcast together. Denise lives here in Kansas City. And she is another author, and she is someone who I think I heard about Denise. Well, I know when I heard about you, Denise. I heard about you back in like 2011. I had just started blogging, and I had just gone viral with my Elf on the Shelf blog, and I was trying to figure out how to turn that into a business. And I had a cousin who was working for you, and she was telling me about you, and she was like, "Oh, you should publish books." And I was like, "Oh, no, I can't do books. I'm just going to blog." Man, I should have published books because at this point, how many books do you have, Denise?
I don't
do you even know?
I used to say 50, at least 50, but I think it's more like at least 60. Because I co-write
60 books.
That, like really adds to it. So yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. So Denise, like I have, 600 blog posts. Denise has 60 books. Like I totally went down the wrong path. But Denise has always been somebody who I admire her work ethic. I admire what she does, how she runs her business. And she is a wealth of knowledge. She is such an open book. And it was such a refreshing thing to find because, especially coming out of blogging can be a little cutthroat and people are very private and quiet about what they're doing.
I know that. Yeah, I used to blog.
Right. I forgot about that. You were a mommy blogger back before I was even. So yeah. And so, like they're kind of, they kind of act like there's not enough business for all of us. And then I started hanging out with you and other authors who are either self-published or hybrid or traditional. It doesn't matter. They all just were sort of sharing their ideas. And what I found is even though you and I do not write in the same genre at all, there are so many things, especially the nuts and bolts of this, that we can share. Like, Denise is like, here's how you upload books. Here's how you do this, So, but I kind of want to know, okay, so you've got 60 books, but like you were a mommy blogger back in the day. Why were you, tell me about the blog. Let's start there. I want to know about the blog because I feel like
go ahead.
You were like a Southern belle, right? Like we've talked about this before. Like you're like a party planner. And was that what your blog was about?
No. It was a mommy blog. So, I always knew I was going to be an author someday. Like, it's like one of those diluted things. Like, it was just a fact. It was just a matter of when it was going to happen, right?
It'll come.
I started a lot of books, couldn't finish them. And, so like I joke that I didn't have this thing called a plot, which turns out is important. Who knew? But so back in the 2000s, around 2006, 2007, I heard about this mommy blogger. She went viral. She'd made an eBay post. I think her son like shoplifted some Pokemon cards, and so she like was selling them on eBay, and she had this whole long story about it, and so she like it went viral. So she started a blog called Because I Said So, and she had 6 kids. I think she had 6 kids. And so she just posted stories about her kids, and I'm like, well, I only had 4, and I was on my way to get a 5th, so I'm like, I got that. I got kids. I can do that. I can write that. And so, yeah, I wrote stories about our crazy life because I adopted 2 children within a very short period of time as a single parent. So I adopted Emma in October, and that whole journey to her in Vietnam was a whole story in of itself. And then, but I'd already had paperwork into China, which I'd left when I got her. So I called Ryan my accidental adoption because paperwork was already there, and I found out about him. So I'm like, okay, why not? So I got him the next July, and so I had 2 small children that were like 15 months apart. We literally flew to China to get Ryan on Emma's first birthday. Like, we got on a plane and she came.
Oh my goodness.
So like my life was absolutely insane because my 3 youngest were a year and 2.5, and then I had a daughter who just started kindergarten, which I can't believe she just started kindergarten because I just took her to freshman, freshman in college. So like I had all these stories, and so I just started writing about it, and so it was like I realized that's where I learned the art of storytelling, beginning, a middle, and an end, because I had these stories, but I had to like wrap them up and make them all work. And it was funny because like I could have like one of my biggest posts was a trip to Costco that was just an utter fiasco. Like Emma lost my debit card. I got it in the mail, ran to Costco, like literally had an overflowing cart, and debit card didn't work because I hadn't like got the new PIN. Anyway, I took 3 trips to get this car like to the bank and back, and so,
right.
I could have like just been sobbing in frustration because we really needed the food from Costco, but I just put a funny spin on it in my blog. So yeah, so that's where I learned humor and storytelling and that kind of thing. And then 2009, I heard about NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. And so I told myself, you either do this, it's time to either shit or get off the pot. You write a damn book and finish it, or you just quit talking about you're going to do it. So I plotted it out, and I did. I finished it. Like, I wrote the whole book. I started November 1st and ended December 10th. And so, and then after that, there was no stopping me then, because NaNoWriMo is really good about teaching you to write. You have to write every day or almost every day to hit your 50,000. The goal is to hit 50,000 words by the end of the month. And then, you won NaNoWriMo. But it taught me to put writing into my schedule, even if I didn't start writing till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. But like writing 9 or 10 o'clock at night till like 1 or 2 in the morning because, I had kids. So, so that's how I got started in blog. And so then when I started writing, I didn't have time to blog and write books. But I wasn't like huge either. So, anyway. But my kids love to go back and read those blog posts now because
that is the nice thing about the blog is they can go back and read all the stuff. It's embarrassing, but they can do it. They can read it. So
yeah, exactly.
What was the first book you wrote? What was that NaNoWriMo book? Did that one get published?
No, it was a romantic suspense about a holistic diet clinic that was murdering people. And I thought it was so clever because the title was So Much to Lose. So freaking proud of myself over that title.
You know what? You can still use that title. Just write a new book to go with it now.
I keep saying the premise was good. The book was terrible. Like, oh my God.
I was going to say, to me, that sounds like a Netflix show. Like, that premise sounds like something Netflix would buy tomorrow.
Right?
Yeah. Lifetime. Yeah. No, I can't. I think that's the thing about NaNoWriMo. I don't think I've written through NaNoWriMo, but I've never written anything that was worth like publishing or showing anybody. But it teaches you the discipline. It does. Yes. And I think blogging taught me the discipline too, because it was like I had blogged every day, and so you just had to get up and do it. I did a lot in the middle of the night,
that I got to be a problem for me with blogging. It was like, okay, I got to have content, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always looking at my children and what they're doing. I'm like, can I blog about this? I feel like I've spent half my life trying to like figure out, like I would never create things to like blog about,
Sure.
but like I would look at life through the lens of a blogger. Like, well, is this blog worthy? Is this blog worthy? And it got a little tiresome at the end. So I was ready to give it up and move on to writing. So.
Yeah. Let's say somebody wants to read that blog though. Where would they find it? Like, if I had an hour.
I used to have a domain. The title was of the blog was "There's always room for one more."
Oh,
that was kind of I've always like invited everyone in, like children.
You do. That is who you are. That's for sure.
But I lost the domain and didn't realize it, and so because that's pretty. I can't imagine someone would snatch that up, right? So now it's a blog spot. So you have to get the blog spot in there. And I don't even quite know. Like I looked it up just a week or so ago, and so, yeah, I think there's always room for one more .blogspot.
.blogspot.com.
Yeah,
so. Okay, because I kind of want to go back and read those stories now because I think it's funny. Now that I've met your kids, especially, like I want to read the stories. I can kind of visualize.
I like looked at the theme because we bloggers. I don't know if you were back in that. You could buy themes and.
Oh yeah, I did not do that.
And have like people work, design them for you and stuff. So it's so outdated. Bad.
my blog was just really ugly, and like I would get all these like emails from people who designed really pretty blogs, and they're like, we can make it really pretty. And I'm like, no, ugly is kind of my brand. Thank you.
Yeah, because like when I was blogging in 2008 and 2009, perfection was the name of the game. So 100%. I was against the grain because I was so not perfection. Like I was talking to like one of my blog posts is about how my dog it was Scarlet. She ran out into the woods, came back covered in ticks. And I'm like, I have her on the kitchen island, picking ticks off of her and putting them into a plastic cup with water. And Ryan, Emma, and then my son's stepson at the time, Gage, they were all like 3 and 4, are sitting at the counter watching me because I'm watching Gage too. And the cup spills over and the tick water like starts. This is that kind of stuff, right?
Oh my gosh. Don't touch the ticks. Leave them alone.
Yeah, so, I was totally not perfection. So, yeah.
No. Well, yeah, you were just ahead of your time. You had to wait a couple years. Like 2011 was kind of the sweet spot for the shitty moms. So, you're a little too soon. You paved the way for us. Thank you for that. Because if I'd found a hot mess mom who couldn't find her debit card at Costco, I would have been like, "You're my spirit animal. I need to be with you. You're my friend."
We could have been friends back then.
We could have been friends totally back then. Oh my gosh. So I'm looking here. I have all of like your books in front of me. I'm looking at all your printout here of all your books. It seems like you write in a lot of different genres.
To my detriment, honestly.
Is it though? Okay, so that's my question. Is it bad? Because I keep hearing it's bad to write in different genres, but I'm like, Denise does it. She seems fine.
Yeah, because readers just don't cross. Like your really diehard readers will cross to different genres, but they typically don't. And there are some genres they'll slide across to, but like, I don't write horror, but like horror and romantic comedy are very opposite. But
sure, okay.
Romantic comedy and paranormal urban fantasies, they don't typically mix. So, I just kind of fragmented my audience. And so, I was just I have a couple of friends that, Shannon Mayer and Christine Gale, they're authors. And so, I co-wrote with both of them. So, but we're just friends. Anyway, I was telling them just the other day, I'm like, I just need to, I feel like I need to pick a lane and stay in it, or 2. Like I could have 2 lanes, but I can't just stand one. But just stay in it. But then typical me, I have romantic comedy, which I'm co-writing with an author that's doing pretty well. And so
what's that one called?
I write mystery. And so I want to I've been writing more serious mystery, but I missed some, I wrote, some Darling Investigations was a humorous mystery, and Rose Gardner started out as humorous. So I kind of want to do that again. So that's
Mm-hmm.
not the same as romantic comedy. I'm already like sliding into a new.
That surprises me that because like I read across all kinds of genres.
I do too.
And so it kind of surprises me that people won't follow you. I feel like if I like your voice and I like how you write and I like the stories you tell, why wouldn't I read all your stories?
I know.
And so is Rose Gardner, is she your most popular?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's
how many books are in that series?
There was a lot of, there was a marketing plan, but there was also a lot of luck to make that series super popular. I made it, so back in like 2013, making your first book free, which they called perma-free, was really popular and was really taking off, and readers would read through to the next book. So I probably have given away about 3 or 4 million copies of that first book.
Crazy.
And sold about 300,000 of the second. So, and then, it stays pretty high for a while, like 200, and
yeah.
And then I have multiple books in that series. So, so that like helped. But that was definitely my most popular series. And then after that was a rom-com series, The Wedding Pact. So, I did really, really well. Like,
that is a good series. Yeah.
So,
and those are
the first one. Like the first one, I made perma-free, so it's hard to gauge with that one. But the second one, I've sold over 200,000 copies. So, yeah, it's done pretty well. Yeah,
it's okay. I mean, whatevs.
There are definitely authors who sell much better than me. So, yeah,
there are, but they're not in this room. So you're doing great. This is the podcast to be on and drop those numbers and be like, I mean, they're all right. I'm just like, yeah, they're fine. Yeah.
Right. But I also found that books, especially with KU, books don't sell that well anymore.
KU is what? Kindle Unlimited? Is
Kindle
that what?
Unlimited? Yeah, a lot of readers want to get books through Kindle Unlimited, so you don't know how many books they're borrowing, if they're actually reading through. I mean, you can kind of tell through the page reads of the next, but you gotta there's a lot of math involved to figure that out, and math is not my thing. So
yeah, we're writers. So now you can't do the perma-free book anymore? Is that what the deal is?
But it's not nearly as effective. So what I found is more effective is to instead of, because you're giving the first book away for free, is often what I'll do is advertising for the first book and then try to equal the income with the amount I'm spending on advertising. So it's like a wash.
Sure.
So like I'm merely making $0 on the first book, but I'm trying to get the sell through to the next books. So it's the same as perma-free, but it's just giving more visibility. So because perma-free used to give you visibility, and it's just not anymore. So, and the sell through is not that great on perma-free books. People who are getting perma-free books typically, and I know someone personally who told me this. He's like, I never buy a book. I only read free books. And I'm like, okay. And that's it's like a library. Yeah. But right,
I was gonna say, why don't I just go to the library? But then I feel like, especially, it's one thing to read a perma-free book that's a standalone book, but if I'm reading the first in a series, right, I need to know what happens next, don't I? Like, how can you just keep reading the first of everything and just be like, well, I hope it ends well for her?
Exactly, right?
I don't know. I will say though, like for a long time though, I only would read I wouldn't say only, but I'd only kind of take chances on new series if they were on a BookBub. If I could get it for like less than $4 or something for the first one, and I'd be like, all right, well, let me just try this. And I found so many series of books that I probably would not have read, at full price if I had, what I mean? Am I trying to say this right? Like if I had not found it on BookBub first for like less than $5 or $4, bought that first book and been drawn in by that first book, I'm not sure I would have taken a chance on the series. I'm not sure I would have spent, $10 or $12 on the first book that I don't know anything about.
And BookBub used to be super effective.
It did.
So you could get a ton of downloads. I mean, I've hit USA Today list with a BookBub in the past. Sold and moved that many copies, but that's pretty rare these days. It doesn't usually happen, and the sell through is less. It's just crazy to me. I think a lot of people just hoard the books. Oh, it's on sale. I've been thinking about that book. it's on sale, I'll grab it, and then they don't read it, or they don't read it
Mm-hmm.
for a while. And yeah, because it used to be that you would see immediate sell through, and you just don't see that anymore. So
Right, right. I feel like we're constantly trying to figure out what the next thing is. Like,
definitely,
you know, it just, and to me, that's the exhausting part. Like, I just want to write. Like, I don't want to have to figure out how to sell these damn books.
Yeah, I'll be honest, part of me's tired of the game, of that part of it, like trying to like figure out how do I get the readers. And sometimes I get excited about it. It used to be like a challenge to me, like, oh, okay, well, I'm ready to take this on. But it's getting a little, I don't know, like advertising took me a long time to understand, especially like Facebook and Amazon advertising. And I feel like I can make them work now, but I feel like I still don't know what I'm doing. And I'm 2 years into spending a lot of money on Facebook ads, but I'm sure there are people that know them much better than I do. So yeah.
Yeah,
But
the Facebook ads are tough.
I was an interior designer major. I didn't major in marketing or advertising.
Yeah.
So yeah. So like when people ask me, and like kids say they want to be a writer, what should they major in? I'm like, don't major in creative writing. I said major in marketing or advertising or some kind of business, because you're gonna have to run a business. So yeah.
True. Whether you're traditionally or self. Because that was my next question. You are hybrid. You're both, correct? You have traditionally, so you've got self-published books and then you've got traditionally published books. I do too. And it's one of those things where it doesn't matter if it's a self-published book or a traditionally published book. We are still the ones marketing those books for the most part. Yeah. Like, so, which I always think is a surprise.
That I thought was for a lot of money, and I thought, oh, they're going to put, they're going to do a big push on this, and they ran a couple of really sad looking Facebook ads, and even back then I could have done a better job of, and I was like, that's it, like that's all you're doing, yeah. So yeah, you definitely have to, unless you're like selling your book for $1 million or more, you have to come up with your own marketing plan. So yeah.
And to me, I think that was the biggest shock. I was like, I'm like, I got all this money. Like, don't you guys want to put some budget behind it?
I know. Yeah.
Like, no, you guys want to make it. And they're like, and then it was like the marketing idea is like, Jen, you should tell your audience that you have a new book. And I'm like, okay, got it. Next.
Yeah, I sold a series to an Amazon imprint, 47 North. It was my first series I sold, and I was still like in the heyday of like trying to like multiple marketing plans. Like I had done a lot to take Rose from selling 2,000 books the first month the third book released, to 2 books later hitting the US Today list, and and then 3 books later hitting the New York Times list. So like I put a lot of multi-tiered plans into place with that. So when it came time to do the marketing, and I like sent this very long email to 47 North, the marketing guy. I was like, okay, so let's do this, and I thought we could do this, and he's like, no, we just like put it out there. I'm like, slow your roll. We don't do any of that. Like, no.
we'll like put a newsletter out, know?
Yeah.
Although Amazon, I will say, if you could be the one, the one good thing about an Amazon imprint, I think, is that if they could get you the ad, like I have the Kindle that has ads. Yes. So every time I open my Kindle, there's an ad on the front. And it used to be, I used to see your books a lot in that ad because they know exactly who has bought. They know who your audience is. They know exactly who to target. And so that is the one nice, and I do buy a lot of those ads.
I do too.
Because I'm like, yeah, you guys are right. I do like this one. one click. So that they do have that. They're probably just like, don't worry, we've got 1 billion Kindle users. It's fine. Yeah. Okay, we'll make sure they see your book. So I'm like, how do I get that ad? Can I buy that ad? Because that would be great.
Yes, you can. It costs a lot of money.
Oh, yeah, I don't have that. So maybe I can talk to Random House and see. But, hey, guys.
They should.
Hey, guys, will you do that?
Yeah.
Will you do that? Will you do that for me, please? No. All right. So you've hit the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and USA Today bestselling lists. Yes. All of them. Those. Is there anything else? Are there any other ones out there? Those are the 3, aren't they?
There's probably Amazon charts.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I've hit that. If I did, I didn't know it, but I don't think I
Yeah.
did. Yeah. I found out that my book, The Substitute, was one of the best-selling books of 2015, 16. I didn't even know it. It was in the top 100. Like I didn't even know it.
Could have sent me a memo on Amazon.
Like the same thing happened to me with 28 and a Half Wishes. So back early in the day, you had to have a Mac to like upload to Apple, right? And so I didn't have a Mac. And so you could do it through this site called Smashwords, which is still in existence, but I don't use. There's other things that are much more sleek to use. But I had like put my books up for sale, and I hardly sold anything on that site or Barnes and Noble. And then I went into KDP Select, which is making your book exclusive, and then readers could borrow 1 or 2 books a month. I can't remember, and they'd get them for free if they were in, if they were a Prime subscriber,
Prime member.
And so we would get paid full price, and then it went down anyway. There are many versions. It's like an early version of Kindle Unlimited. And so I went into that because my sales started slipping and I wasn't selling anywhere else. But then that started becoming less effective. And I pulled out and I went back into everything wide. And then I'd done my perma-free for Rose. And I just, they had the whole process. Anyway, and Apple reached out to me in December of 2013. And they're like, hey, we just want to let you know that your book is going to be listed as one of our top thrillers of 2013. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, since you're like such a big seller here, we like you have a rep and stuff now. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I like made a perma-free in October and I hadn't paid any attention and I hadn't got paid yet because it was like in the top 10. That book was in the top 10 on Apple and had been for like weeks and weeks.
Oh my gosh. Whoops.
So yeah. Anyway.
I know. That's why you have to have Google Alerts. You gotta have like Google Alerts set up for everything.
I do have Google Alerts now. So yeah. So
that's how I found out to hit the New York Times.
And a lot of my success I totally attribute to luck. Because when Apple put out it used to be that you had to download the book app and then they made some update and then the book app was part of your phone. You had to remove it if you wanted. And when they did that, my book was number 1 on the free 20 and a Half Wishes, number 1 on the free store in Apple. So then I got lots and lots and lots of downloads from that and sell through. So, I mean, that's pure luck, right? So, I mean, we can try everything we can. Like some people will say it's all hard work. Some people will say it's all luck. I say it's a combination of the two. And being in the right place at the right time. And sometimes you might not be, and sometimes you might be. So,
well, and I think it's trying a lot of stuff. That's the other thing. Like you're always trying new things. Like I'm always sort of watching. You can't just. It's like, look how we've talked about, like all these different things that no longer, that we're like, well, I used to do Smashwords and I don't anymore. I used to do, BookBub. It's not working as effectively now. Like, all these different things, perma-free is over now. So it's like you have to constantly evolve and try new things and not be afraid to try new things. I mean, and not everything's going to work. Like not everything, like there's going to be things where you're like, well, that was a bust, but okay, we tried it.
Sometimes you're going to lose money and sometimes you're not. But yeah, I'm the queen. I'll try anything. I'll try pretty much anything. So yeah, because
and you have like I've seen where you've like you've done a whole book like through your newsletter. Like remember when you did that? Like if you subscribe to Denise's newsletter, like what was it, weekly? Every week you'd get a new piece of the book.
And I just couldn't keep up. So yeah.
Yeah.
And that was kind of freaky because I was writing a mystery 1 week at a time. I wrote the first part. Like I had them in parts at first. So I wrote the first part and then released it. And I was writing the second part while I was releasing the first. And then I got caught up and then I was got behind on my other stuff. And so then sometimes there'd be gaps. And then sometimes I'd be like, oh shit, like I wrote that 9 months ago. Like what did I say? So
who died? I forgot. Who did it?
I don't necessarily recommend that with a mystery. So it was a serial.
Yeah, it was. But to me,
Because a lot of times what I'll do is I'll release things like a novella in my newsletter, chapter by chapter, or I used to do by parts. And then that's because that's how I got newsletter subscribers with Rose. I realized it was a discoverability issue. People didn't know about the books because they were very highly rated. I was either I need to stop writing these or I need to like figure out how to make them sell. And I realized the reviews were super high. So it was a discoverability issue. Two, readers didn't show up for the next books. So that meant they didn't know they were there. So I'm like, okay, I need to I need a newsletter that actually works. So I needed to get people to sign up.
Right. Well, see, the newsletter was like, because I remember like many, many years ago, like I went to some party that you hosted with some friends of yours who were also independent writers. And at that time, I had a really big platform on social media, but I didn't have a newsletter. And I remember like somebody there was like, oh, you need a newsletter. I'm like, oh, I'm good. Like I got a platform. Because in those days, the platform, it showed everybody everything, So I was like, oh, I'm super good. Like everybody sees my stuff. I'm fine. Yeah. And now I'm like, damn it, I should have started a newsletter because it's like, I'm always, now my newsletter is like, because that's the thing. If you are a brand new author getting started, or even if you are an author who is 10 years into the business, get yourself a damn newsletter because it is the only thing you can control. Exactly. And I took way too long and figure out creative and interesting ways to get people on it, which I still have not done yet. Denise is much better at that. Subscribe to her newsletter and stay for the content, but like learn what she does too.
Yeah, no, they like free content. So that's how so between October 1st and January 12th, I think is when the next book came out. I signed up 5,000 newsletter subscribers because I offered a free novella in 3 parts. So I wrote it and then I released the first part October 1st, November 1st, December 1st. And so they could read it on my website. There was a passcode, there's a password to get in. And then I left it, then it was like, I left it on my website for several weeks after, and then I put it up for sale and I've sold like 60,000 copies of that novella I wrote. So not only then, so that serves a dual purpose. So I gave it to them for free to get them to sign up. And then I started charging for it. So, and I think I've sold 60 or 70,000 copies of that novella. So yeah.
That's crazy. Well, see, and for me, like I saw you guys all doing novellas and I was like, how can I do a novella for nonfiction? Like there's no such thing. Like, and so I just started my whole thing is like, my books all have a theme, but I'll have these stories that don't fit anywhere, but I can't write a whole book about them. So I just would like package like 3 of them together and then I would sell them. And so I was just like, these are just like, the B-sides. Like you don't know what this is. And those, for me, those have been great. Almost like a lead in marketing. Cause I think I only charge like 99 cents or $1.99 or something like that for them. So they're really cheap. So people can take a chance on it. Yeah. And then, I've sold thousands and thousands of those and then they lead into the books. And so and that's what I mean when I say like, you can take Denise's ideas and you can just incorporate them into whatever you're doing because it works. The concept works. You just got to figure out how to mold it to whatever you're writing.
Yeah. So like with Angela and I, we're co-writing these rom-coms. So I realized we needed our own newsletter, right? Because not all of my readers, some of them are mystery readers and they're not interested in romance at all. So I risk just annoying the shit out of them if I'm sending them things constantly about my rom-com stuff. I mean, I still have to hear about it. Sorry. I wrote it, so you gotta hear. But like we can focus much more on that kind of stuff with our newsletter. So then what we did to get people to sign up is we had a bonus chapter. So at the end of the book, if they go and they fill their name in a form, if they're not a subscriber, it subscribes them. But if they are a subscriber, it just records that they, it says, okay, yeah, you're in, you get to read it. And we have about 8,200 newsletter subscribers. And we started last September, but not
That's
quite
crazy.
a year ago. So yeah.
That's awesome.
All through the bonus.
What made you decide to start like co-writing with people? Just because you're just tired or?
A little bit, and then a little bit is I have so many ideas. Like people message me, I have an idea. I'm like, please stand in line. I've got so many ideas on my own, right? It's weird because from like 2016 on, there was a lot of like you know, there was a lot of, I don't know, everything just felt like chaotic and depressing, and people, there was a lot of, without getting political,
Why
like
did we
there
feel
was a
that
lot
way?
of people that were just very unhappy. And so
Yes.
I could just tell that rom-coms were, because they kind of like fell out of favor. Like I could just tell that rom-coms were going to be a thing that people wanted. They just wanted something light and happy, but I just didn't have time to write that in my schedule. And so my developmental editor, she's great. Like I had co-wrote a book with someone, and then like she would like write the first draft, and then I would go through and heavily edit it, and like we would come up with the plot. She'd write the first draft, because I much prefer revising, believe it or not, to first drafting. But like so Angela, like, she usually will tell me like, oh, you need to beef this up or whatever. And so she had like filled in a section for me, and I could tell that she, that I was like, I wonder if she's like a frustrated writer. Like she's an editor, but she would like to write. So I was like, would you be interested in like co-writing something with me? And she was like, yeah, definitely. And so first though, we wrote a mystery. We wrote a mystery together, which I still would like. We haven't done anything with it. Because I told her, I'm not sure how to market this, because it ended up being like a little bit of sci-fi to it. I called it cross between the Umbrella Academy and Pretty Little Liars. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know, right? And so I really liked it, but we didn't do anything with it. And we were going to we were looking for an editor, because she couldn't edit it. We were looking for a developmental editor to go through it, because we could tell I was missing something, but we couldn't quite figure out. So during that, I was like, got the idea for rom-com. So I'm like, okay, let's switch. Let's let this set and switch to rom-com. So that's what we did. We've released 5 books and 2 novellas, and we started a year and a half ago. So
this is like I'm looking at the list here. This is like the Jingle Bell Hell one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So A.R. Casella and Denise Grover Swank are the co-authors. And then you also have like you have another co-author that you wrote. I read that too. Women's fiction.
Yeah, Christine Gale. And that was,
yes.
Some ideas are just like larks. Like we were chatting one day, and we could see that women's fiction was kind of like growing again. And so Shannon was like, Denise, Christine, this is totally in your wheelhouse. You guys should write some women fiction. And it was another case of, I got so much going on. I don't know if I have time. And Chris was the same way. So I'm like, hey, one of us said, hey, let's co-write it. And we're like, oh, okay, let's do that. And so, we wrote that first book in like 2 weeks, because we plotted it. Chris is very much a plotter, and I'm not. And so it was almost like I was writing a chapter in the morning, sending it. She was writing a chapter at night. And we were writing 2 chapters a day, like solid. And it took about 2 weeks to get that book done. It's crazy. Yeah. They don't always.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So the other thing I want to talk to you about. So not only do I think that you do a great job writing and marketing your books, your newsletter is amazing. You also manage a Facebook group that I think is super fun. I really like your readers group. Can we talk about your readers group a little bit?
Yeah, I realized back a long time ago that, so I knew that some romance authors had street teams, and I wasn't really writing romance back in the beginning. But I thought that I had readers telling me that they could, that they were telling other people about my books, and they were writing the names of the books on receipts and giving them out. So it first started out as a group for people who wanted to help promote me, and I would send them like little trading cards with the cover of the book, and then they could pass them out. But that got to be too expensive. We're going through them, man. But so it kind of started with that. Like we started off with a group that was a street team. There was probably like 20, 30 people in it. And then those people became reviewers too. And then it all kind of built and built. And then I opened it up to other readers. And I think I have about 7,300 people in that group now. So I'm more active than sometimes than others. Like if I'm super busy, then I tend to not go in there as much. But I try to go in there at least once or twice a week. Sometimes I'm not that great, but it's a great resource for to ask readers things. They love to be involved. So when I got asked to write a paranormal women's fiction, which is women's kind of a women's fiction book with paranormal aspects. It was as a genre that K.F. Breen and Shannon Mayer created. I decided I was going to crowdsource that entire book, and I did. Every character in the book was named by readers. Their jobs, their different aspects about things that happened. It was like kind of a choose your own adventure. I got to a certain point. Okay, do you want to do this or do you want it to do that? And they didn't know. You were picking blind. They didn't know anything, right? So yeah, that was super fun. It was a ton of work. I had multiple spreadsheets. I'm the queen of spreadsheets. So I had many spreadsheets of that, and like going through and picking things. And so then at the end of the book, I like named everybody who like picked what character and stuff. But then like I'm getting ready to start a new series, and I'm like, I wanted to be an amateur sleuth. So like, what kind of job can this person do?
I saw that. What did you come up with?
Yeah, so I asked readers to give me ideas. I mean, I told them she needs to be able to have flexibility in her schedule. So I feel like I picked the same job. So I'm like, give me ideas, right? So I think they like that. And it's a huge help to me. Like, I don't have to anyway.
Did you come up with a job?
No. Oh. I haven't picked yet. Okay. Yeah. No, I haven't. I'm still trying to sort that series out in my head. So yeah.
An amateur sleuth. So like, what was the little lady that our moms used to always watch? Jessica.
Yeah.
What was her name? Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like she was a mystery writer though, wasn't she?
Yeah, but I feel like she always solved crimes though. Someone always died.
She did, and that's was it Cabot Cove?
Yeah, maybe.
I watched a few episodes of that show, but I hear people talk about it. Like there was like people joke about how many murders there are in one small town. Like, don't ever move there.
Right? It's true. Yeah. You just get there and or like the murder mystery writer.
My mysteries tend to be amateur sleuths. So like it's super hard because like with Rose, she was solving mysteries. So I'm like, how many dead bodies can one person happen upon, right?
I think you just have to let go of that. Like you just, Murder, She Wrote didn't care. They didn't care. Exactly. They just kept finding more dead bodies. Yeah. Nobody ever complained.
Yeah. So the next series, I'm like, well, I think she's gonna. So like, Rose actually had a paranormal ability. She could see the future for people. So I'm like, so do I give this new character an ability where she can like a police officer would come to her and ask for help? So I have the ability in mind. I just don't know if I'm going to use it. She can, because Angela and I used it in our mystery, and Angela's the one who suggested it to me. So in the mystery we wrote, but they had paranormal abilities. My character could tell if someone was lying. Like she always just knew. So like she didn't have to read anything. She just knew. They're lying or they're telling the truth or it's ambiguous. So I may have my character in this new mystery series be able to tell a lie. But do you want him to be able to tell a lie always? Or sometimes like there's just, do I want that?
Or do you have like the one person that can fool them?
Yeah, is she like psych and she can just like read their body language? Or is this a true psychic ability? Like there's still a lot of things I'm working out for in my head. So.
That's crazy.
I don't want it to be cozy because cozy is cutesy and no language and no sex. And I definitely have all that stuff. So,
well, good.
It's more like a Janet Ivanovich, kind of situation where it's funny. Well, she's a bounty hunter, but like
same idea though.
Comparison is the kiss of death. Like you never measure up to that. Although I have personal feelings about how that series went and stopped reading. That's all we need to know my personal feelings. Yeah. No, I just felt like there was no character growth. So,
Oh, yeah, that's important.
Obviously like that. Some people don't want character growth, but yeah, anyway.
Well, it's a good fast plot, I think, is really what yes. It's like, it just keeps it going. Yeah. It's funny. Are you in TikTok at all? Do you go on TikTok?
A little. I've tried to do some TikToks. My best TikTok is me showing So we went on a beach vacation this summer or this spring to Outer Banks, and there was a pier down the road, and I made my children walk down there because it looked close, right? It turned out it was 2 miles away. We walked 2 miles in the sand. We hadn't even got there, and they're like, "We're tired." I'm like, "We're almost there." I can't get it now. So I posted a picture of that and said I made my children walk there. That was like my most popular TikTok. I had like 700 views.
There you go. Well, I was going to say, because I'm obsessed with TikTok and I watch TikTok more than I watch TV now, I think. And it's kind of, it's bad. But there was a woman the other day who I was watching, and she has psychic abilities. And so she said that a police officer stopped into her store or something. I'm not quite sure. And he asked her, she said, "How's it going?" And he said, "Oh, I've been in," and he named a city where he'd been, and it wasn't close. It was like far, a couple hours away. And she goes, "Oh, were you by the river?" And he was like, "How'd you know I was by the river?" And she's like, and she was worried that she was going to look like a suspect.
Right.
And then she talks about like follow up that like he comes back later and he's like, "I don't care how you know it. I don't care. I don't want to know any of this." Cause she's like, "I kind of see things." He's like, "I don't want, he's like, "What do you know about the river?" He's like, "Tell me what we're missing." And she did. And so you could, so your sleuth could, like, I don't know, work in a convenience store, and the sheriff could come by. That's what I was thinking about. I was like, oh, like this lady was just like, "I have these abilities," and he's like, nope, just tell me what you know. He's like, "I don't care how I get the information. I just need it. Like, we just got to find whatever." She's like, "I don't know what they're looking for. I just know it's by the river." And, and,
wow.
And she's like, "Yeah." And I was sort of like, creepy. Like,
I know, like, right. I got to check her out, man.
Yeah.
You have to send me a link.
I will. Okay. I'll find it. I'll send it to you. Because because the other thing I'm watching on TikTok a lot is Book Talk. We got to get on Book Talk. We got to figure out how to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, they are making books go crazy. Books that, and it's not even new releases. It's like, your backlist.
Karen McQuestion, she has a book that came out several years ago, and I'm pretty sure Book Talk put it there. I haven't truly examined this to know for sure, but it was number one it keeps becoming number one on Amazon. When I checked yesterday, it was number 3, and we're talking weeks and weeks. And I know. I mean, she's not doing anything. She probably has some buying or advertising going on, but it's not her. Because she was completely shocked. She told me she was completely shocked when this happened. So I'm like, the only thing I can think of is it's Book Talk on TikTok. Because that's the crazy thing about TikTok is you can post, well, usually it's not the author. It's other readers. That's what's effective, is other readers talking about the book. And those readers will find that book without a link. Because we've been taught you never post your book without a link. Because they're not going to pick it up. You got to make it easy. And those readers are going and finding those books with no links whatsoever. That's crazy.
None. And half of them don't even have a book. Like, half of them do like the green screen thing where they just hold their hand up and they put a little tiny Kindle, cover. And they're just like, and you're looking at it on your phone. So it's just like, but I'm like, I'm watching them and going, yeah, it's never the author promoting their own book. It's always a trusted reviewer.
Yes.
And it's always just kind of word of mouth, and then you'll see the backlash where you'll see somebody will say like, "All these books are popular on TikTok and I think they're trash and this is why."
Right.
And you're just like, "All right, cool." For me, like a bad review is still a review, so thanks.
Oh, right.
And then, still read it, didn't you? You're welcome. And but like yesterday or the day before, I was in Barnes and Noble, and they had like a whole TikTok table. Like,
oh wow,
they had, you saw it on TikTok, which back in the day, when my first People I Want to Punch in the Throat book came out, there were a lot of us coming out of like the blogging world that had books, and they used to make tables like that where they'd say like, you read it on the internet first or whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
And I sold a lot of books that way when they were sitting on those tables. And so I'm just like, how do we get our books on those TikTok tables? Like, how do we?
I know. Right? No, I've said that too. We need to figure out who the influencers are send them books. You have to, but I haven't done it.
See if they like it. 'Cause I think that's the other thing. It's not like you can like pay them or, bribe them in any way. It's just they have to connect with the book and like it. And when they do, man, they can't stop talking about it. And we all know word of mouth is like the way to do this. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's just kind of interesting.
Right? Yeah. If you could just get a couple of people that were influencers interested in reading your book. But the thing is, you can't spam them. You can't like send it to them. You have to like offer it, and if they want it, because I don't want now to be the result of people going and spamming book
yeah.
Here's my book, read it, review it. Yeah. I would never do that. You always ask permission, and you never want to come across as annoying or presume that they want to read it. They may not. It may
right.
Not be their thing, so yeah.
Well, I think that's the thing. Like, I really haven't seen any of them do anything in my genre. So, it's a lot of YA. It's a lot of women's fiction. It's a lot of mystery, horror. Even I follow a guy who does horror only. So, I feel like the nonfiction is really a lot of self-help. And so we'll see. Yeah. I don't know.
Well,
yeah,
it's kind of help self-help.
Kind of, a little bit, I don't know.
Well, what about
all right? So
coming out, is that self-help in any way? I haven't read it yet.
Yeah,
but I haven't read it yet. So
yeah, I think I think it'll fall into self-help somehow. Yeah, I just don't know. It's always hard to shelve me. No one knows where to put me.
So. Yeah, I kind of have that problem too. Because like with Miss Garner, it was mysteries, a little bit of women's fic, a little bit of coming of age, a little bit of romance, a little bit of paranormal. So when I tried to get an agent with that book, no one wanted that book. I got hardly any requests. Nobody wanted it. So
see, that's when you do like the Pretty Woman like meme, like, big mistake with all the vibes and stuff. Yeah. Big mistake. Right? You should have signed me. It could have been amazing.
The series would have never done well if a publisher got it because they didn't know what to do with it. And they wouldn't have
and I think
a chance. Like the third book out, like they did fairly well. Like it did okay. I mean, there's different versions of good. Like, right? People have different versions of what good is. Like my first book, my idea of success was to sell 1,000 books in 6 months. And that was my idea of, okay, I did this. I was successful. And I hit that in 2.5. And I thought it was successful. But then like I released my urban fantasy book that I'd shelved because I'd been trying to get an agent and released it next. 2 totally different audiences. And back then, book bloggers were actually effective. So I got 2 book blog tours back to back for that urban fantasy. And then that was in the top 100 for quite a while. So, and so then I was an urban fantasy author anyway. So like, so by the time I got back to Rose and the third book came out, a publisher would have just said, well, that's it. Cut our losses. We're done. And, I tried to figure that out too. I realized I had to look at it like a business, but the reviews were really strong and the readers who loved it. So of the whole series. So I'm like, okay, this is a discoverability issue. It's not an issue with the book itself. And it's probably a packaging issue. So like I changed book covers and, I figured out how to find those readers and it worked. But a publisher wouldn't have done any of that. So they would have just given it up.
No, I think that's something, that's something else. I think you have to, like, when you kind of have a foot in both worlds, you have to decide. So when you're writing a book, do you decide right from the beginning, like, I'm going to self-publish this one or I'm going to give this one to my agent?
Yeah. So like my Carly Moore series, my Grand Central publisher who published, the Wedding Pact did really well, and Grand Central approached me and asked me to write a series for them. It was a rom-com series called The Bachelor Brotherhood. And so they wanted me to write more books for them. And so she wanted to talk to me, and she said, well, what have you got cooking? And I said, well, I've got this mystery series that's an offshoot of Rose that I'm getting ready to start. Because I usually plan things well out. And like oftentimes I know a series a year ahead of time. Like I'm trying to just write. Yeah, I'm trying to get there.
What's that like?
She wanted that series, and I told her no. that I wasn't going to sell that series to them. So
was there, why won't you sell it to them?
That they wouldn't I'd seen how they marketed the first series. I just knew that they wouldn't market it. I mean, so like the series that they had, I mean, you have to, when I sell to a publisher, it's for a goal. And so that goal was to get in a bookstore, to be in Barnes and Noble, because my indie books aren't in Barnes and Noble. They won't stock them. So, because they can't return them. Right. So that was my goal, and hoping to get readers that way. And I didn't get nearly as many readers as I hoped, but a couple years ago, it was probably about 4 years ago, I bought a new car, and I was in the office like with the salesperson, and he had gone to talk to somebody somewhere, and he was like, "Hey, this woman in finance, she wants to know if you're Denise Grover Swank." And I said, "Yeah." She says she says she's read your book set here in Kansas City, your romance book. So I mean, there are people out there. She bought it at Barnes and Noble, right? So there are people out there. I did get some readers, but I knew I was gonna. But here's the thing: is I knew I'd lose money by selling it to them. I knew that going in. I knew I could sell more copies on my own because I would take risks and do marketing things that they wouldn't, but I couldn't get in bookstores. So every time I sell to a publisher, it's with a goal in mind. I have an idea that everyone I tell to is like, I just told it to my son's girlfriend this weekend, and she's like, "Why? I want to read this book already." Like, I told her 3 sentences, and she was like, "I want this book now." And I want to give it to my agent to sell. But it's like, it's a spec project, right? So, I got a kid in college. I got a kid in private high school. Got a lot of dogs. I got to make money. So, like, I got to make sure I don't have huge gaps between my releases. Otherwise, I'll lose readers. So and I'm co-writing in between my own releases. So, like, I got to fit it in somewhere. So, yeah.
Well, because that's my question too. So, like, when I sign a traditional contract, I always have a non-compete that they make me sign that I can't publish on either side of my release date.
Yes.
And you kind of got to, because as a self-published person, I could publish something every Tuesday if I wanted to, every day if I wanted to. I don't know that I necessarily recommend that. But when you're doing self-pub, though, you do need to keep a much quicker schedule than a traditional publisher does. Yeah. And so that's something I always have to think about. Like, I'm with you. Like, you have to have a goal when you're signing that contract. There better be a goal, and it better not just be that advance, because that advance could have to last you. For instance, with Midlife Bites, it'll be 3 years by the time I get the final payment from them from the day we signed,
when they approached you.
Yeah. And so, because things happen and, the dates get pushed. I mean, every time my books, the dates have been pushed, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's them. Partly this time it was me because I think I rewrote that book 4 times. But, and I was just always kind of looking for a different path for it. But, but I'm locked into this non-compete that starts the day that book gets published. Then it's like, okay, from now on, you can't do anything. And so that's something else to really think about, that you're tying yourself up into this. You're kind of slowing and cooling down that self-publishing iron. And, and for me, I've been able to write a bunch, but otherwise but I can't publish it. It's all just sitting there. Like, I keep asking my agents, I'm like, how soon can we publish again?
Right. Well, and like, there's also like, they often have in their clauses, like they have right of first refusal. So that means the next book you write, you have to give it to them for them to look at and make you an offer. You don't have to take it, but that like really can like delay you publishing if you write the book, and then you have to wait for them to, like, you can have it put in there. Like, I had clauses that they had 30 days to look at it before.
I did too.
Yeah. So before they could refuse it. But like some of them I've just said, I will give it to you, but I can still publish. Like, I can still publish other things. And it had to be within that specific genre of what they wanted. Yes. And there was like a time limit after that too. Like, it couldn't be like indefinitely. It couldn't be like, if I write another rom-com 10 years from now, you get to look at it. It's like within a certain time after the last book. So, and those are like, those get all that stuff. Those are like boilerplate contracts where I couldn't publish 6 months on either side of a release. And I'm like, that is never going to fly. I'm never going to sign that. Never. So we moved it to 30 days on either side of a release date. So, but I was like, okay, you got to let me know because I got to plan my own releases around either side of these.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. And I think to me, that's where my agents have been really helpful. Like, I think a lot of times, authors are like, oh, why do I need an agent? You learn this stuff from yourself from experience too, but then they can also just narrow the scope of things. And, this time I have a much tighter non-compete that's more in my favor. It's still, there's still just things I can't get around and the publisher gets the first look, but I think they get the first look at whatever comes after Midlife Bites or something like that. Like, I don't think they get the first look at just anything that I've written. And, and we wrote in I think 2 books, we wrote them into the contract that I can self-publish these 2 books, at some point in that time period and, and that sort of thing. So that, because I was like, I have to eat. The kids have to, I have bills,
And you're going along so well at this point that, I know there's a lot of authors who they count on their money, but, they have another spouse who provides. And I know your husband also, just real estate and stuff, but you're counting on your money. It's income. So you can't just can't just say, oh, well, I'm going to go without 3 months without any kind of income. And you got to figure that out too. Yeah. So.
Right. Yeah, so and then you got to make that backlist work.
I think of I'm a publisher of my own books, so I'm my own publisher, and so I tried to get back into urban fantasy, and it just didn't go well. And I can release a book, and I always release a week. I always earn back everything I put out, and then make profit. It just depends on how much, right? But the third book of this urban fantasy series, I did not break even though. I did not pay off everything. And so it took me a month or so before I earned out all of because I spent a lot of money on covers and editing and stuff. I would probably say I spent at least $4,000 to get the book out. So, and it depends.
Without any marketing dollars. That's just editing and covers. Yeah.
So, same. So readers want the 4th book and I want to write the 4th book, but I'm like, y'all have to realize that I'm not going to make any money on the 4th book. So if I do this, it's a penny project. Do
you ever abandon a series? Did you abandon it?
Because I would classify this series abandoned at this point. Will I write that 4th book? I would like to think I would, but it's nowhere on my schedule. So, and that came out several years ago. So I'm sorry. I feel bad because I kind of left it on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but I don't know. It's weird because my readers were obsessed with Rose Gardner and some of them wouldn't read anything else. And so, I ended Rose Gardner. And now I find readers are now going and reading stuff that I've written previously. That they wouldn't touch before. So I don't know. It's weird, but I don't think there would be enough of them to justify writing the 4th book. I've thought about writing it as a serial in my newsletter, but not enough people care about it because the whole point of putting things in
they didn't read the first half of it.
Yeah, because I put whatever it is at the bottom of the newsletter, so they gotta scroll through all of it. So. Sorry, it's a small price to pay to read something for free, right? I have abandoned things, and reluctantly, but I'm a single parent with children and bills and dogs.
Well, and it's one thing to look at it with a cold eye of, is this going to be a profitable adventure? Is this worth my time to do this?
Yes.
But the other thing too is, and maybe it's all connected, but if I'm not feeling it, I don't want to write it, and maybe I'm not feeling it because it's not selling. I don't know, but
those two often go hand in hand because it's very frustrating, especially when you love something so much. A series, I loved Piper Lee and Castro series. And so when readers aren't reading it, then it's very frustrating and it's a little depressing. And it's I will admit there is a little bit of, well, nobody's going to read this. Why am I doing this?
Why am I doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think so. Well, and I mean, God, traditional publishers look at like that all the time. I mean, I had a friend a few years ago. She signed a deal. She had she had an idea for 7-book series. They signed her to 1, and they said, and we'll see how that one sells, and then we'll keep going. And I think she got 2 or 3 done. And then they were just like, yeah. And it was 7 books, it's like she had so much more to go with that series. And they were just like, yeah, sorry, not going to happen.
Well, that happened with me with 47 North. They bought 3 books. On proposal, they knew the 3rd book ended with a kind of a cliffhanger. No one ever told me that they weren't, but the deal was we would buy 3 books and then we'll make a deal for the next. After the first one came back, the first one came out, the second one was in edits, and I said something about, it said in the copy, it said that it was a trilogy. I'm like, oh no, this isn't a trilogy. And they're like, yeah, no, it's a trilogy. This is all we're doing. And I'm like, but the 3rd book, I gotta like replot this whole thing now. Because the second book was done. Like the second book was done. And now I gotta take with what you've left me with for the second book and try to wrap this all up in the 3rd book. Yeah.
Oh, and so, okay, what are you working on now, though? You've always got at least 2 or 3 projects going. Yeah, what are you doing now?
Okay, so I'm working on a Carly Moore. And, and then it's next to the last book. And then I'm working on the 3rd book of Angela and I's Bad Luck Club series. And that book will come out in November. And then I'm cooking the idea for my humorous mystery, which I hope I can I think if I get this all worked out, as soon as I finish Carly, I can start. And I'm hoping to release it the first part of December. But then I also have another mystery series that's more serious to replace Carly. And I'm hoping to release that next spring. So yeah, but that'll be hard because she won't be amateur sleuth. She's going to be a private investigator who used to be a police officer. And so so I got called for jury duty. I get called for jury duty all the time. So I got called for jury duty for U.S. District Court. And so they're doing, the questioning. And so you have to fill out a form, and then the judge says, okay, he goes, so he says, so you're a mystery writer, so you know about police procedure. And I said, barely. I said, this is why I write amateur sleuth, so I don't have to know any of that stuff.
Just stumbles in and ruins your.
So yeah. But I realized that with amateur sleuth, you're so limited because you don't know that stuff. So I've done Writers Police Academy 3 years now, trying to learn stuff. But I still I feel like I'm gonna be oh my god. So that's why I ended up deciding to make her an amateur sleuth, or a private investigator, because she doesn't know police procedure, but she doesn't necessarily have to follow it
right. She can still kind of go off.
And believe it or not, I've taken private investigator community continuing education classes that actual private investigators take, virtual classes.
Yeah.
I can learn their procedure and how they do things. And so I've been doing that for a couple of years because I've been planning to write the series for 2 years. So,
well, okay, hold on. So I'm just going to insert myself into this. We need to write a series together.
Okay.
And our amateur sleuth is a realtor, because I know all the real estate stuff.
Yes.
And so I got all the real estate knowledge. You've got all the PI knowledge. And we're both funny as hell. And we like to find dead bodies everywhere. We can totally do this. So put me on your calendar for 2025. Okay. And because I know you're booked out till then, and then we'll do that.
I have an opening in 2023.
Oh, well, that's when my contract's available again. So yay.
Oh, okay.
That's when I can write again. So hello. Yeah, we'll just do that, because I can't write. I want to write a mystery, but I don't know how to plot a mystery. Because I am the reader who, people always pride themselves on I knew who it was on page 5. I'm I was shocked on the last page. Every time I'm oh, it was them. So I really can't write a mystery because I can't figure out the mystery.
Well,
I do have an idea though for I was gonna say, I do have an idea though. I think we could like work together on my idea for like, I do have an idea for like vigilante minivan moms who just go around and like, we're like the equalizer, but like we do it in between soccer practice and, picking up the dog from the vet. Like, like, you got a problem that you can't solve, let the equalizer moms take care of it for you.
Okay, we'll have to figure out which one we want to work on first, right?
I know. We'll know. You know what? This will be good. Like, we'll crowdsource. Email us and tell us which one we should write, you guys. Tell us.
There you go.
You know what? We won't do it unless there's someone who's going to read this book. So,
I know, right? Exactly. Well, I mean, so case in point, I did exactly that. So, like, I did the series mystery thing in my newsletter, and I took 2 existing series that were complete and put 2 characters together. And so, because a lot of readers hadn't read either one of them. And so then they went back and read the stories. But anyway, I was like, okay, so like if I put out a book in either Summer, with Summer Butler as the main character, would you read it? If I put out a book with Magnolia Steele, would you read it? Are you not interested? I didn't get enough interest in the, so I'm like, okay, well, then. You told me, and I'm listening.
Ouch. I hear you, but ouch.
So I'm like, yeah, but some people are like, oh my God, I want it so bad. Write it now. And then other people are just like, no. And that's cool. That's totally cool.
Yeah.
I want to know that. Tell me now. Don't lie to me. It's all anonymous, but like, don't try to make me feel like not worry about hurting my feelings and then not buy it.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Right. Don't make me do all this and then have it not be a good book to sell. Oh gosh. Well, Denise, we are at the end of our time here, but I just want you to tell everybody where they can find all 60 of your books, your Facebook group where they can subscribe to your newsletter, all that. Tell them everything.
So it's pretty easy, DeniseGroverSwank.com. But then I do have a newsletter or a website with Angela, and it's arcdgs.com. But there's also a link to that on Denise Grover Swank. On Facebook, I'm Denise Grover Swank. My group is Denise Grover Swank's Readers Community. And everywhere you go, there are links to sign up for my newsletter. On my website, my Facebook page, my group. Yeah. So, yeah.
And I'll just give one last plug too. If you are someone who is thinking about getting into a career with indie publishing and that sort of thing, Denise and her friends wrote a book called The Naked Truth About Self-Publishing.
Yes. And
that book is like my Bible. Everybody wrote a chapter about different things, from everything from like self-care to marketing to writing. And when I was first getting started and trying to figure all this out, I would read that book and I would refer to it. And it's just a great source of knowledge. And it is
now, but there's still some things that are apply to today.
I think a lot of it would still apply. Maybe not so much, maybe some of these marketing ideas, because the marketing stuff is constantly changing, but a lot of the content really applies. And I think you guys should definitely check that book out if you are thinking about a career in writing, and definitely follow Denise, because Denise is, like I said, she's just a wizard. She does it all. I don't know when you sleep. Because the other thing too is, this is my favorite thing too, because like during when we were all locked in, Denise and I did a few of our podcasts over Zoom, and I would say like, "What are you doing today? What'd you do today?" And she was like, "Oh, remember when you guys were like doing like making croissants from scratch and like." She's like, "Oh, we all did like sourdough starters." I'm like, she's like, "What'd you and your?"
I tried it. He died. That sourdough.
Yeah. She's like, "What did you and your kids do?"
Starter was actually like we ended up using that in the book Angela and I just released in August. Like the character starts, she gets at the beginning of the book, she's fired from her blogging job because she wrote about her relationship with her sourdough starter.
Oh. Well, there you, and I just heard, I was thinking the other day, because on NPR they were talking about sourdough starters, and this guy has a starter from like the 1800s.
Oh
and
my God.
And he was just like, "Oh, it's a living, breathing thing." And it just
is,
like,
they are.
And I was sort of like, "Oh, Denise has a starter, but I don't have it." I was like, "I don't have a starter. But yours didn't survive, huh?"
The best starters are what you get from someone else, an existing starter. Those are the best starters.
Yeah.
I used to have
and I think that's why his is so old.
Long ago, and then it died in a move. So yeah.
Who knew that these things are so touchy? I just go to the bakery. They make sourdough bread. I just buy it there. It's fine. It's really tasty. All right. Well, thank you, Denise, for coming on today. I had so much fun. I always have fun talking to you.
Me too.
And please go out and get all of Denise's books and join all her clubs and all her groups and all her stuff and tell her which books you like the best so she knows what to keep writing.
Yeah, definitely. Tell me what you like so I know what to write.
But don't tell her what you don't like. That's the thing. Your group is very, they kind of forget that Denise is in there and they will kind of say mean things. And I'm like, I want to just come in like Mama Bear and just be like, excuse me. I know. That's quite rude, and nobody asked for that opinion. Because it's always when you're not asking for an opinion, you're just like, no. Me.
Yeah. Sometimes they're deleted.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so yeah, like if there is a poll, go ahead and answer the poll. But otherwise, we don't need your opinion. Thank you. All right, Denise. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon, and I appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening and subscribing to No Pants Required with Jen Mann. Don't forget to follow me on social media and subscribe to my newsletter at jenmannwrites.com. My newest book, Midlife Bites, Anyone Else Falling Apart or Is It Just Me?, will be out in January, but it's available for pre-order everywhere books are sold.